It's 11 o'clock, and a lot has happened since you got home from work.
Pandemic is not a word to use lightly.
Tonight, we're answering your questions, keeping your family safe with no hype. Because here, it's all about facts, not fear. Thanks for staying up. I'm Nicole Livas. David is off tonight. Here's how we're handling the big story tonight. Classes canceled for thousands of students across the Commonwealth. 7 schools and universities in Virginia making the tough call to tell students to go home. And if you're asked to self-isolate, would you know what to do? We're keeping you prepared. Plus, stop touching your face. Yeah, it's harder than it sounds. And the Verify team is in the house tonight. Find out if that claim you saw online about the virus spreading through cash is true. That's coming up in a bit. But first, let's take 60 seconds to get you caught up on the latest headlines.
We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days.
In a primetime address to the nation, President Trump announces sweeping travel restrictions, banning travel from Europe to the U.S. The U.K. is excluded. Actors Tom Hanks and his wife Rita Wilson revealed they tested positive for coronavirus while in Australia. They say they'll be isolated. The global pandemic is forcing the NBA to suspend its season. No more pro basketball games until further notice. March Madness is still on, but nobody will be in the stands. The NCAA is limiting attendance. Centera isn't taking any chances. They're limiting visitation at hospitals and life care facilities. Only 2 visitors per patient will be allowed. They're asking people who have been sick to stay home. So is the Catholic Diocese of Richmond and the Episcopal Diocese of Virginia. In addition, they're telling parishioners to refrain from shaking hands and stopping the distribution of wine at communion. It wasn't that long ago that the CDC warned of disruption to our regular lives. That's already manifesting itself. Parents had to make sudden road trips today to pick up students from schools across the country after administrators made the call to go online only. Since you got home from work, Old Dominion, Norfolk State, and William & Mary decided to do just that. They join UVA, VCU, Virginia Tech, and James Madison University in telling students to stay home. So here's a question. But what happens if you're asked to self-quarantine or put yourself in isolation? We know how to get ready for a big hurricane. The big difference here, though, you might have to stay at home longer. That's not to alarm you. It's just a matter of preparation. Angelo Vargas is helping you out with that tonight.
It's simple. If you're sick, stay home. Practice self-isolation until you get better. Maybe you're not sick and ordered to stay home. That's called self-quarantine. The CDC says you may have to stay home for 14 days. This is to see if you get sick. But are you ready to spend that much time at home? In terms of supplies, Homeland Security recommends you have a 2-week supply of food and water. And it's not just water. You'll need fluids with electrolytes, like sports drinks. Check your prescription drugs to make sure you have enough for a continuous supply in your home. You should also have over-the-counter medicines like pain relievers, stomach medication, cough, and cold relief. Once you're home, stay home. Stay in one room. Clean as much as possible. Disinfect your doorknobs, handrails, and tables. Also, stay away from other family members and use only one bathroom. Then, relax.
All right, Angelo, let's say you're not sick and you didn't get exposed to COVID-19. What should you do then?
Well, what we learned today was that we're going to practice social distancing, it's called, or self-distancing. And what that means is, let's pretend that you're coughing or sneezing and you're not sick, but I have a little distance from you. So the World Health Organization tells us to be 3 feet away from you. Exactly. So that's, I know it's easier said than done.
Right.
And a lot of people are taking precautions. But again, these are the facts to help, but not to create fear.
Right. We do have to be careful. And it is hard because I just told you to step closer to me just now, right?
A little bit.
All right.
I didn't touch my face or anything, so.
All right. Thanks, Angelo. Well, now is a good time to talk about who is most at risk. People of all ages can be infected, but older folks and those with pre-existing conditions appear to be more vulnerable to coronavirus. The best way to protect them and others Keep washing your hands. Keep coughing into your elbow. It's now up to us to stop this. And we've been talking a lot about washing your hands, using hand sanitizer, and not touching your face. A lot of people have trouble with that one. You don't realize how much you do it until you try not to. But it's an incredibly important step to take to combat the coronavirus, or really any illness for that matter. Madeline David takes it from here.
In a time like this, part of our job as journalists is to bring you expert advice on how to avoid contracting the coronavirus. But at the end of the day, we're human too, meaning we also need to heed the advice we give. I did a little experiment around the 13 News Now newsroom tonight, catching the same people writing about and telling you on camera not to touch your face, touching their face. Turns out it's very hard not to touch your face. Even a California public health official licked her finger moments after telling people not to touch their face at a press conference. According to the Association for Professionals in Infection Control and Epidemiology, the average person touches their face 23 times an hour. 23. The reason you shouldn't do it is simple. You're transferring the germs and bacteria from whatever surfaces you've touched to your nose, eyes, and mouth area. Take it one step further with phones. You may touch something, then send a text message, then put your phone to your face to answer a call. Challenge yourself to not touch your face for just an hour. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds. For 13 News Now, I'm Madeline David.
And now we know how the flu is spreading here at Channel 13. All right, we know you have questions, and we found some answers for you. First, no new local cases. That is true. No new cases have been reported in Hampton Roads. But how about this one? Can you get the virus from your pet? Well, the answer there, no. Okay? The World Health Organization says right now there's no evidence that companion animals can get infected. They also can't spread it. And then how does this affect pregnant women? Well, this is the tough one, okay? There is no evidence, not enough at least, on this topic just yet. A lot of people are wondering which surfaces coronavirus can spread on. Good question. We had the Verify team check out several claims, and here's what Jason Puckett found out.
As the coronavirus keeps spreading, we're getting a lot of questions about how it spreads on surfaces. Can it spread on money, from our pets, our phones? Well, turns out the answer is yes to all of them. Our sources are the CDC, the WHO, and a few medical studies. The quick answer here is that the coronavirus can survive, at least briefly, on almost any surface. Fur, paper, metal, glass, all included. The WHO estimates it can survive for a few hours up to several days, but that depends on a lot of factors like temperature, humidity, and what kind of surface it is. They're also using past coronaviruses for comparison. In 2003, for instance, SARS was found to survive up to 96 hours on glass surfaces. That same study found SARS on paper after 36 hours and plastic and stainless steel after 72 hours. But here's the thing. The virus just being on a surface doesn't get you sick. It has to get into your respiratory system. These articles and stories are drawing our attention to specific surfaces, but the reality is we should just be aware of all surfaces. Whether it's your phone, money, a railing, or a pet, the virus spreads the same way. Someone with the virus coughs or sneezes, those droplets carry the virus wherever they land. Luckily, the prevention techniques are the same no matter the surface. Wash your hands regularly and avoid touching your face. If you take those precautions, there's no reason to be more concerned about one surface over another. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
Remember, we are about facts, not fear here. Text the word coronavirus to the number on your screen. You'll get a text message back with our latest reporting. There are still other headlines tonight. Here are the three big stories we're following outside of the pandemic. Deadly dog attack. A 2-year-old child died at the hospital after being bitten by a pit bull in Portsmouth.
Didn't see anything that would say that they would hurt a baby, a child, a toddler, or anything like that.
Police say it happened on Darby Close in Churchland. The owner surrendered the dog to animal control. Death at sea. The Navy says a sailor aboard the Norfolk-based Vela Gulf died yesterday. We have not learned yet exactly what happened. Sailor's name won't be released until family is notified. Weinstein sentenced. Today, a New York judge sentenced disgraced movie mogul Harvey Weinstein to 23 years in prison. His attorney calls it unfair.
Cat sentence that was just handed down by this court was obscene.
His accusers disagree. They say this has been a long time coming. Last month, a jury found Weinstein guilty of rape and sexual assault. Dozens of women have accused him of sexual misconduct over the years. Weinstein now faces a rape trial in Los Angeles. We're also following this one because it impacts so many families here. It has to do with groundwater near one of our local military facilities. For years, we've been sharing information about a toxic chemical known as PFAS. It was in firefighting foam used at Fentress Field in Chesapeake back in the 1970s and 80s. It seeped into the groundwater and made its way into neighbors' drinking wells. The Navy has been trying to fix the problem ever since. Today in Washington, lawmakers heard about the scope of the problem on a national level.
The failure to disclose such critical information showed a complete lack of care for the health and safety of the service members, dependents, and civilians that live on and around Patrick Air Force Base.
In particular, we must do much more to ensure that people living on bases and near bases have clean water. We must do much more to remediate legacy contamination.
Here's the bottom line. Lawmakers secured $60 million for cleanup in last year's defense bill. Is your house breaking bad?
To find out that you bought a house that's toxic, that is making all of us sick, it was just kind of devastating for me.
Stay up for a few more minutes. We have the secrets to keeping your family safe.
Talking about a big spread in temperatures tomorrow from coast to inland. I'll have details coming up.
Facts, not fear.